But until then, in case you've joined us here on Zoom, quickly introduce yourself. Let us know you're here. Let us know which part of the world you're joining us from. My name is Aparna. I'm going to be your host. We've got Warren who's going to take you through the session. I'm joining from Bangalore. Yeah. Quickly let us know your names and the city that you're joining us from. Also, audience on LinkedIn and YouTube, let us know your introductions on the live chat. Before we start, let us know each other. Hello, Pramod, Atul, Femi, okay, Anju, Kumar from the US, Pramod from Hyderabad, Laura, Sri Raksha, hi, someone joining us from Alabama, okay, Dallas, nice, Stockholm, okay, different parts of the world, interesting. Someone from Morocco as well, okay, great. Pawan, Jeffrey from New York, Anita, okay, someone's name is Hope. Nice name. Charles from Nigeria. Rajneesh. Okay. Jackie from Brisbane. Nice to have you guys. Hello, Karen, Anushka, Suryakant. Great to see so many of you joining in. Live audience on LinkedIn and YouTube as well. Please quickly introduce yourselves. We're going to just get started very, very quickly. And we all know why we're here. And I'm sure all of you face, I won't say issues, but all of you want to automate a lot of processes at work. Can be creating content, it can be writing an email, it can be, data transfer from one platform to another, it can be any use case, based on whatever function you work in, right? I'm sure all of you have this requirement of automating your workflow. So that's what we're going to learn today. And Warren is going to take us through some demonstrations on how this can happen on a few tools as well. Yeah. And towards the end, we'll also talk about enrollment steps for our Generative AI for Business Transformation course. Right. So that's what we've planned to do today. But before we start, what I want you guys to do is also let us know your professional background on this poll. Okay. I've launched this poll on Zoom. So the audience on LinkedIn and YouTube again can use the live chat. There's no which function and your overall work experience. Yeah. Thanks everyone for your introductions. Great to see so many of you. We've got, yeah, we've got close to 230 people here. In the webinar, we're expecting more people. But yeah, that please also respond on the poll. Use the poll to interact with us. There are going to be a lot of polls today. A lot of interactions with us will happen on the chat, yes. But when I ask you a question, I will make sure that there's a poll launched as well. Okay? Yes. Yes. And there's just an interesting game, okay, but just an interesting thing that I have in the beginning of, in the middle of the session after, Warren is done with his demo. So I thought we could play that game as well. And also, a lot of you here want to understand how different workflows can be automated, like I said in the beginning, right? So we've compiled a list of workflows and the tools that can help you automate these manual workflows. So make sure you stay till the end to receive this particular giveaway. But otherwise, if you drop off in between, you might miss out on this resource and also the webinar certificate, which we plan, to collect for your names at the end. Yeah, yeah. All right, great, great. Thank you so much for your responses on this poll. I'm just going to share these results with you. Warren, you can see that half of them belong to the tech functions. Okay. And a lot of them also experienced. Some of them are freshers, have about 3 years of experience. Okay, you're able to see these results, Warren?
Yes, I
Yeah,
am. Yeah, great
yeah, yeah,
mix.
yeah. Yeah, great mix. Yes, absolutely. Okay, great. So let's proceed. Let me just quickly introduce Simplilearn to you, and also Warren, and we'll quickly get started. Right. So remember, you might have questions to ask. Please use the Q&A box for questions and interactions during the session. Let's use the chat box. Yeah. And like I said, make sure you stay till the end for the resource that I was talking about, and also for collecting your webinar certificates, giving in your name, collecting the webinar certificate. Okay. And I might limit interactions on the chat for a while, because there are too many people, close to 300 of them right now, and we don't want the chat box to be flooded. It might distract a lot of learners as well. So if you have a question, make sure you put it on the Q&A box. Do not post it again. I will compile them and ask, request Warren to answer them towards the end. Okay, yeah. So a little bit about what we do. Simplilearn started off in 2010, and over the span of 15 years, we've touched more than 8 million careers worldwide across people, more than 150 countries. And of course, proof is that we've got learners from across the world today. We've got 40 plus global accreditations and 1,000 plus qualified trainers who help our learners achieve their career goals. We've got certifications, we've got career aligned learning paths in multiple domains. Generative AI is just one of them. We've got certifications in project management, agile and scrum, cybersecurity, and also long term courses in data science, business analytics, cloud computing as well. We've partnered with a lot of leading organizations across the world. And this particular course that we're going to talk about towards the end, which is Generative AI for Business Transformation, we partnered with Purdue University Online to deliver this course to you. Okay, we've also got partnerships with PMI, Microsoft, AWS, PeopleCert, a lot of Indian universities such as SPJ Global, IIT Guwahati, IIT Kanpur. You can check out our courses on simplylearn.com based on whatever your career goal is, whichever domain you would want to upskill in. What we're really proud of is that more than half of our learners have reported a salary hike after they've completed the course. And if we talk about completion, so about 85% of them have gone on to graduate. And these learners have also rated us a 4.8 on 5 on many platforms, right? So that's just a little bit about Simplilearn. Let me introduce Warren to you. So Warren bridges the critical gap between business strategy and AI. So he's really passionate about AI, and he's got more than 15 years of experience in strategy. And he's also a certified AI instructor, and has got experience in developing LLMs as well, and which help eventually drive a lot of business results. Warren, welcome to this session. Let me, leave the mic to you, and you can introduce yourself to the audience.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Yeah, I'm really excited to be here today. I'm one of the instructors for the course that was mentioned, and I love bringing AI to our business leaders and help transform how they're incorporating AI into their organizations. So really excited to walk through some workflow automation with you today, and can't wait to get started. I'll pass it back to you.
Yeah, absolutely. I think before we show the live demonstration, I think it's important to understand which workflows can really be automated. And, a lot of learners may have questions about, oh, I am in procurement, or I work in the legal team, or I work in the finance team. Can my workflows be really automated? So maybe we should start off with helping them understand what workflows can be really automate. Maybe we could discuss some use cases, and to the learners here, let's say, let us complete talking about all the workflows that we have in mind. And maybe if we didn't cover anything, you could ask your question on the Q&A box. Okay, right? And we may not be able to cover all functions here, but we've tried our best to cover all bases. So maybe we could start, Warren. Let's talk about, all these different functions: sales, marketing, tech, customer support, and the others. If you could
Yeah.
explain, yeah, how it really goes about.
Yeah, for sure. Like you see on the screen, I think for automation use cases, this really comes down to Do you have a task that is very repetitive? It follows a pattern. If you do, you can likely automate it. And that might be something that happens a couple times a week, as you see on the screen. It might happen multiple times a day. So think about those things that are repetitive manual processes that, if you could get those off your plate, would really free up some time for you. And that's what really we start to think about when we think about automation use cases. So just some areas here that we see are common, and I think a lot of you are probably thinking about when we're thinking about automation. Sales is a big one. A lot of us have to work in our CRM systems. We have to track leads and deals and things like that. And there's a lot of automation that can happen in this particular space that really frees up a lot of time. When you think about the marketing side of things, I think we've all seen AI and its ability to generate content. And now, if you fit that in with automation workflows, you can start to see content flow out to whatever your channels are. That could be
Yeah,
email, it could be social media, maybe a blog post. So, lots of ways to think about moving content through an automation workflow um, out to your customers and your users.
yeah,
You might have some back end things like invoice processing, expense approvals. Honestly, this list is almost endless. Again, anything that you have to do repetitively and is mostly manual today, I think consider for automation. And one I really like is the notion of customer support. Ticket assignments and knowledge base updates. These are all things that can be automated as you see tickets come from customers and run through your customer support system.
right. So question that a lot of learners may have looking at, these examples or these functions is, would their job be taken away? Let's say someone is handling tickets in customer support, or someone is handling marketing ops, or
Yeah,
setting up campaigns and all of that. So would their job be replaced by Gen AI tools, or how's that going to be? I'm sure learners, have this
yeah.
question in mind later. Yeah,
Very common question. We hear this a lot. I think a lot of people have opinions. My opinion here is you're going to take things off your plate that are kind of tedious and manual and let you focus on more higher value strategic things. So instead of performing that task each and every day that doesn't really add value other than it's needed,
mm,
you can focus on other things and start to grow your business and improve other aspects of process.
yeah. So it's like you focus on better things that add value, that add more significant value than, of course, the manual workflows, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So maybe let's look at some workflows in sales and marketing, some examples you can share.
Yeah, for sure. So some things that I mentioned this on the previous slide, but I think in the sales and marketing world, we see this a lot. HubSpot and Salesforce have some great tools that will help you manage leads and deals. So in an example here, lead forms submitted is often very manual. It's coming in from some sort of website form, gets into the system, and people have to figure out how to route it. With automation, these systems can now auto create lead entries. So think about an email comes in from a customer about an inquiry, and we haven't seen that customer before. We can create a lead, and we could actually even assign a topic to that lead. So you can really start to think about how your systems grow in their strength. Same with sales reps. If a lead comes in, you probably have to have someone go through those leads and figure out how you need to assign it. Maybe it's territory or priority. Maybe it's a product line or a service line. So AI can help automate that workflow step by pushing the lead into the right spot for a sales rep. And
Yeah,
then manual content creation, a lot of this happening. I think there's a real strong capability in the sales and marketing world to start pushing out content that is automatically generated. And I should note, this doesn't have to be fully automated with no people. You hear the term human in the loop. Workflow automation still allows that. So don't think that it's just, turn it on and walk away. You
yeah.
can, but there's definitely ways to, stop that piece through the pipeline and make sure that you're comfortable with what's going out the door.
Yeah, absolutely. So it's not going to be either or. I mean, you will have to have there has to be some manual intervention still, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, more so in customer support, I guess. I don't think we can entirely automate handling customer service or support. I mean, of course, these tools make our job easier. So you could also highlight that.
Yeah, absolutely. I think this is a really strong use case in general for automation. Walking through some of these examples, tickets that come in for issues need to be triaged. It's a big part of someone's role. AI can help analyze that and determine what the intent is, what the urgency is, and make sure that it gets through the system appropriately. Normally, you'd have to assign those tickets manually to someone to follow up on, but smart routing with a workflow can make sure that it gets to the right person with the right sense of urgency attached to it as well.
Right.
You can write custom responses. So there's no reason there's a lot of standard inquiries that come in. You could have AI draft responses to those inquiries, especially if they're simpler and the use cases are well known, and potentially even auto reply. You're going to see a little hint of that when we get into the demo. And then finally, this is kind of an interesting one too, is as you continue to get calls come in to your customer service centers, those topics can ultimately be fed into your knowledge base, which can be shared with your customers in public, or they could just be shared with your agents internally to continue to enhance the capabilities that they have.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Got it. All right. All right. Let's maybe look at some automation use cases in tech. And we also have a question that asks about how data analytics and insights generation from data can be automated. But maybe we could cover the slide first.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
So one way to think about this is, and this relates a little bit back to the customer support, but as your development teams are working together, you might have a QA resource or someone else on the team report a bug. Today, that might happen by an email or a Slack channel, and those tickets can automatically be logged based on that content. So the AI workflow could pick up an email or a Slack message and actually get it into the system, into something like Jira for tracking down the road. For deployment, I think this is a really interesting use case is code commits can trigger your integration pipeline. So now as soon as you see something show up, the workflow can move things through the system and notify people along the way as well. So really handy
Mm,
way to automate some of that process. For teams that are having to provide stand-up notes, they're often in spreadsheets or chats, maybe even stickies on a board.
yeah.
You can use some of these systems to automate that as well, right? Slack bots could answer structured questions. You can take all those responses. And I particularly like this one is summarize everything that came through that day, whether that's from Slack channels or email messages, and send that out to your stakeholders because they're waiting for that information as well. Um,
Right.
and then QA emails, test case coverage reports, very manual process today. But after each deployment, those test reports could be auto-generated and they could be sent again, maybe to Slack or maybe to stakeholders. So lots of ways in this space where you can automatically fill things through a workflow.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've got one question that this person is a data scientist,
Mhm.
and I'm assuming, okay, I'm not sure what CPG industry is, but they're really interested to know some of the use cases in data insight generation. And are you
Yeah.
aware? I mean, can you probably highlight some tools that can automate that process as well?
Yeah, for sure. CPG, I'm assuming that's consumer packaged goods. Spent some time in that industry. Fun.
Yeah.
There's a few different ways to think about data analytics in this space. So from the really simple use cases, like maybe you get a CSV file or a spreadsheet that needs to be processed through a workflow, you can feed that directly into like an OpenAI API, pull back insights and continue to move that down the road. If you have deeper needs, there are tools out there that really can dive in. One of my favorites is Julius AI, really great
Hmm.
data analytics tool. And you can plug it into the workflow to make sure that the data is moving forward as you need. Lots of different use cases, and I think a lot of different ways to dive into that one.
Nice, nice. So we're getting a lot of questions on the tools that are listed on these slides, Warren. So if you don't
Yeah.
mind revealing what tools you'll be highlighting or showing today, I think that will kind of let the excitement settle. Maybe
Yeah.
some people have a question about how Zapier is useful or how Jira is useful. So
Yeah.
um, maybe if you can just do a quick reveal of what tools you're going to show.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
So we're going to hit two tools specifically today. So
Mm-hmm.
we're going to cover a use case specifically in Zapier, which I think
Okay.
everyone should get some real interest from. We're also going to
Mm,
hit a newer automation tool called N8N, and that one's kind of the darling of the AI community right now. So both
mm.
are really good workflow automation tools that have done a great job at incorporating AI into their processes.
Right. Got it. A lot of questions on marketing as well. So, is there, I mean, can you also maybe let us know a tool that can help automate or create a marketing calendar,
Yeah.
also kind of generate insights. You already talked about data insight generation, but something on how, AI automation can also help in SEO. We could help
Yeah.
them give content suggestions or help them rank their content better. So, are there tools, if you can name a few?
Yeah, there's quite a few. I think, when you think about content, one that comes to mind is Jasper. I think a lot of people
Mm,
have seen that one. It's very popular in the
mm.
marketing world for that.
Yep.
I think I would also, from an automation perspective, focus back on N8N. I think when you see the examples that the community is posting around automation in this tool, a huge percentage of them are actually focused in the marketing world. So how do you generate content? How do you schedule it? How do you push it out to your various channels?
Mm,
There's so much happening in this space. Marketing seems to be a really sweet spot
yeah.
for automation, especially in tools like N8N.
Yes, yes. Thanks for answering that. And a lot of other questions on other functions as well. So remember, guys, I said that there's a compilation of all the workflows and popular work functions, including HR and procurement, that we've compiled. So I
Mhm.
will be sharing that, but just give us some more time, and we're going to talk about some other use cases as well in probably these functions. If we can also highlight, yeah.
Yeah, we can run through. So another list of a few legal and compliance. So a lot of paperwork in the legal world, as many of you
Mm,
probably know. So the ability to auto-generate contracts or do compliance checks all can be built into workflows.
mm,
Procurement and inventory, certainly a common use case is, moving POs around, looking at inventory updates, maybe shipping notices and things like that. Um, Also seeing a lot of buzz around learning and development. So the ability to create content, do tests and scores and things like that, and bring all that information back in. We're seeing some really interesting use cases for these. And we should note, we've called out a few different areas, but
yeah,
virtually any area today probably
absolutely.
has a use case around workflow automation. So again,
Yeah.
think back to what we said earlier. If there's something that you're doing repetitively and it's a manual process, it's probably a candidate for automation.
Yeah, actually, which is what I wanted to ask, our learners here were also asking us questions about, okay, what do I do in project management? What do I do if I'm in HR? Or what do I do if I'm working in manufacturing, right? So just a quick
Mhm.
question for the learners here. What's that one task that you feel, it's best if we just automate it? So let us know on the chat. Let me know what's that one task you feel, if you feel that's automated, it'll just make your job a little easier. For example, my job is to create a lot of interesting webinar decks. So if a tool could automate that, would save a lot of time for me, right? So you could share your examples as well. Someone says appraisals. Okay, yeah, that's a tough job. Anyone else? Sending, yeah, content creation, video animation, uh, insight generation, onboarding new employees, okay,
Yeah,
identifying errors, data submitted, yes, yes. A lot of interesting use cases.
yeah, these are great.
Acknowledge priority escalations, okay. App creation. Okay.
Yeah.
Meaning data PPT generation. Someone said, I felt also PPT generation takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
Compiling daily data reports, monitoring Amazon seller account. When lead gen form comes in, AI auto populates. Oh yeah, this is what I mean. Zapier does this, but yeah, either way,
Yeah.
agentic AI chatbot to replace your role. Okay, uh, it's not going to replace your role. Creating a project plan, milestone dates, auditing, creating report. Yes, report generations, minutes of meeting. All of these take a lot of time. How can you be automating customer interaction? Okay. Anyway, answering a request on eBay, network health,
Yeah.
monitoring, search for documents, similar content. Okay. Okay. Again, I'm not sure if there are tools for all of these activities, but definitely some of them. Yeah. Okay, great.
Yeah, for sure. Great
Definitely.
list.
Yes. Yes. Um, Aditya, we'll take probably if you can just put that on the Q&A box, might be able to compile that. But the document that I'm about to share, which will come in some time, should answer some of your questions about different processes. So let's proceed. Warren, another question that popped up in my mind when I was thinking about automation is what
Mhm.
exactly happens when something is automated?
Yeah.
What happens? What does the tool really do? I'm sure a lot of learners have this question in the back of their mind. All they're thinking is, how they can make their processes better. But what really happens when something gets
Yeah.
automated? Yeah.
Yeah, great question. And I think that there's a pretty simple flow to automation, and we'll walk through this for you. So, really, at the start, there's a trigger. So there's something that happens that's going to start this automation flow off. And that could be kind of an automated trigger, like a form submission, or we receive an email. But it could also be manual. It could be, a user clicking a button to click this off. So there's a lot of different ways, but everything really starts with this notion of a trigger. Then we
Mm,
get into logic and rules, and this is how the workflow is going to behave. So, in the example we talk about, like a CRM example, if a lead score is greater than 80, assign it to a sales rep. If they're in a certain region, maybe you assign it to a different sales rep. So, logic and rules are going to dictate how that workflow moves through its own process, which leads to the workflow itself. And this is the step-by-step process that runs after a trigger. And this could be as simple as 3 or 4 steps, and it could be as
mm.
complicated as 100. So
Wow.
workflows can range from really small to really large and
Yeah.
complex.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you can see some really good examples out there if you want to get into those.
Yeah.
And then
Absolutely.
oh, go ahead.
Yes, I think you can go ahead. But before that, let me just share this quick, not checklist exactly, but a list of tasks that can be automated. So what I've done is I've posted this link on the chat for people to download. And while the students download, I'm just going to stop my screen share and hand it over to you for your demonstration. Yes.
Yeah, so let me get started. Let me move
Sure.
my screens around here so I can help move this forward. I'm going to share just a general desktop. Okay, so we're going to walk you through 3 workflow scenarios, and I should note these are fairly simple, which is the intent. What we're trying to do here is really give you a sense of what's possible, and how some of these tools might be used to stitch some things together. So while you might see a workflow process here that's got 4 or 5 or 6 steps, think about your processes and what you're trying to automate, and how it's going to fit into a framework like this. So we're gonna start with Zapier, and we're gonna start our trigger today for Zapier is going to be a form. So I used a customer support request. This is a simulated form. It's not real. It is connected back to Google Forms, so we can use it as an example. But what we want to do from a workflow perspective is pull this information in. and then see if we can act on it in some particular way. So I'm just going to fill this in really quickly. I'll fill in my name. I'm going to fill in, I've got a billing issue, and I can quickly say I was charged, oops, twice this month for my service. Maybe my Netflix account got dinged. So, and then I need an email for the requester. So we want to get back to them. So I'm going to submit that, and that's going to be stored. So in the workflow, what would happen is the workflow is going to pick up the fact that a customer support request form was submitted, and now it's going to take some action. So we're going to walk through what that actually looks like. And to do that, we're going to use Zapier. So if you are not familiar with this tool, very well-known automation tool, has been around for a long time. Fantastic tool. There's a ton of options here. I think they're up to integrations with close to 8,000 different applications now. So the chances are, if you need to integrate with an application, Zapier probably can do it. And we're going to walk through a fairly simple example of this today. So let's start by creating a Zap, which is what their workflows are called. Kind of fun. And what we want to do here is I'm going to walk you through the manual process. You're going to notice up here there's a Copilot AI beta. So you can actually type what type of workflow you want in here, and it'll help you build one out. We're not going to use that today. We're going to run through the build ourselves so that you can see how this works. So let's start with our trigger. And our trigger is going to be that form that we just submitted. So you can see all the apps here. You can search for them. They've got this categorized. You can see 7,000 plus apps. So it's a pretty big list. So I'm just going to grab Google Forms here, and then we're going to start running through this process. So first thing is you'll see the app is Google Forms. We don't have to change that. That happened automatically. We need to define a trigger event. So I'm going to look through these, and we have a couple. I'm going to use new form response. Now, depending on the app, you could see one or two items, or you could see dozens. So for Google Forms, it's pretty simple though. We're going to select that one, and then we're going to move to account. So your Google Forms belongs to some account. For me, it belongs to mine. So I'm going to select my account here and then make sure. So what I've done now is I've established a connection to this Google form itself, so that I can pull that information in. So I'm going to continue. We've got a configure step now. And this is, you're going to notice the flow in Zapier is mostly the same. As we go through each of these steps, we've got to set up a configure. So I'm going to go grab my customer support request form. I'm going to continue here. And then this is a really important step. In any of the automation tools you use, you're going to see the same step in N8N is testing your trigger. Let's make sure it works. So I'm going to hit test. And what's going to happen is it's going to reach back out to Google Forms, and it's going to make sure that it can go connect to it and pull the information back. Okay, and let's see what we got. So there it is. So this is what I just keyed in. You can see what it's done is it's pulled in one record, so that now we can use this as a sample as we're configuring all this information. But you can see all the field names that are available to us, and then what that data currently is in each of those fields. Oh, sorry. You know what? I just realized. Am I screen sharing? Does everyone can see that? Someone says still not visible.
No, it's visible. It's just that it's a
Is
little
it?
zoomed out.
Okay.
And that's
Let me see
why.
if I can zoom in a little bit. Here,
Yeah,
let's,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
there we go. Probably can do one more. All right. Hopefully that's better.
Mm.
Thank you for calling that out. Uh, okay, so we've seen that. We've run the test. We've got our data. That step works. So we're going to continue with that record. Now we're going to add our next step in the process. So now what do we want to do? So what I'm hoping to accomplish with this workflow is I want to get that form response, and I want to analyze it, and then I want to send a response back to them. So this is where the AI part comes in. So what we're going to do is if I hit AI, I've got all the list of AI tools. I'm going to hit popular here, and we're going to use the old standby ChatGPT. So we're going to grab this one, and we're going to configure this now. So the app is the same. For the action event, and this one's important. So you're going to see for ChatGPT, there's a lot of different options in here. For this particular use set, we are going to use conversation. And that's what's going to apply to most of the options that you're going to use with a particular tool. I'm going to show you a different one in a little bit, but for this type of purpose, that one makes a lot of sense. Just like we did with Google Forms, we need to select an account. So I'm going to go connect that to my account. If you haven't had an account set up like I did, it will ask you for an API key. You can get that from OpenAI, they're free. And then you can go key that in and run that through. So I'm going to hit continue here as well. Make sure that we get the next configurations done. So now, if you're familiar with ChatGPT and how we connect to models, we've got a model here. I'm just going to leave the default. And then we've got some other areas here. The only one I'm really worried about is the user message. So this is your prompt. So think about if you typed something into ChatGPT, what would you be typing? So, and I've got something predefined here, so I don't have to type this all out. And I'm going to put this in. So we've got your helpful and professional customer support agent, a client name, etc. Now, this is where the power of Zapier or other tools really comes in, is being able to connect this information together. So I'm going to replace this information now. And what we're going to do is we're going to hit the backslash or the slash, sorry, and we're going to get options for the information that we can pull in. So this now becomes pretty easy. So I can pull in first name. That was pretty easy. I want to replace issue. I'm going to delete that, and I'm going to put the issue you're experiencing. I'm going to replace the issue summary with the summary that the user provided. And then finally, I'm going to replace the email with the email address that they provided. So think about the process here. So what we're doing is we're building the prompt that is going to be sent to OpenAI for processing. So OpenAI is going to receive it. And you can see already we've got not just what the field name is, but we've got an example of that data. And then there's a lot of other information in here. If you're familiar with some of these settings, you can go ahead and play with those. You don't need to. This will work as it is, as we see it right now. So I'm going to hit continue. And we can see our information comes through. This is going to be the actual message that is part of our prompt that moves forward to OpenAI. So pretty simple. And we are going to test this. And now this is probably going to take a second. I noticed the OpenAI API was a little slow yesterday, but that was pretty good. It was pretty fast. So we come back and we should see, here's our output text. So I've got internal notes. Client Warren reported double charge, a little bit more information. And then we've got email response. Oops. And it's got all the information about sending an email. It's a billing inquiry. Thank you for reaching out. I apologize. We're committed to resolving your situation. So fairly simple, but you could really direct what this looks like with this prompt. It just depends on what kind of information you want in here and what kind of tone that you would like to come back. Now, I'm going to copy this little piece of text here because we're going to need to split this information up in a moment. And the reason is you don't want to send, these internal notes to your customer. You just want those for internal use. So I'm going to add another step now. And for this, we're going to use one of the built-in tools by Zapier called Formatter. I'm going to grab this one real quick. And Formatter just allows us to work with a piece of data and format it in a specific way. So my event is going to be text. So I'm going to grab that. And I'm going to continue here because we're going to take the input, which was the content you just read through. We're going to transform it. And the way we're going to transform it is we're going to do a split. And there's lots of options in Formatter. But for us today, we need to do that split. The input is going to be our conversation results from ChatGPT. And that should be right at the top here, message, contents, text. Okay, and then our separator, that's what I copied. So if you remember earlier, we have this email response. Everything below this piece of text is what the actual email is going to be. And then just to make it easy, the segment index just says if you had a bunch of different values split by some sort of separator, you could choose which one. I know the last one is the one I want. So I'm going to grab that. We're going to continue. And as usual, you want to test your step because you want to make sure that it's coming. And you can see now for my output, I only have the email contents. I don't have the internal notes anymore. So I think we're doing pretty good. We have what we need now. Now what we really need to do is to send it out to a user. So we're going to add one final step, and that is going to be Gmail. I'm going to grab that one. So again, our app doesn't need to change. It's selected by default. We are going to select an action event, which for us is going to be send an email. I need to, as usual, select my account. You'll see there's a very standard kind of flow to how these Zap configurations work. We'll continue. Now, we're going to need to configure how this email gets sent out. So what I'd like to do is hit the slash again. And for this one, I don't have to go back to the last piece of the chain. I can go right back to the first part, and I can grab the email address that was provided. I can put CC in here. I don't need to do any of that. I'm going to choose my own address. We can put anything we want for from name. I'm just going to put customer support in here. And then for the subject line, I'm actually going to go pull the issue type so that they can relate back to what they brought in. And then finally, the body is going to be from our formatted text, our text formatter. We're going to grab our output. And that's really it. So if I continue now, I am going to test this step. You can see what information it's got in here. This is what it's going to do. And we're going to send this out. And I'm going to publish that now. And we should see, if I check my email, it should come through any moment now. So you've seen from the process, it's fairly easy to set up those steps from one to the next. There's a configuration flow that as soon as you get into that process, you'll get used to. And that didn't come through. I'll have to double check that. And once you get used to the process, it's pretty straightforward. It works well. The way that you configure things is very understandable as you get through it. And you can see from this, we haven't written any code. This is something that anyone with even minimal experience should be able to get into and use and run through the process. So I'm not going to wait for this email to come through because I didn't want to delay our webinar. But what the test will do is it'll send it to, I can show you here because I'm probably just having a slow mail server. It's going to send it to the email that I had. It's going to include this information, and it's going to make sure I see this on the other side. And if I see that email show up in my inbox, I'll bring that back for the team to see. But trust, it is moving through the flow, and it is going to result in the email getting sent to me. Now, normally that happens pretty fast. And you can see the message was sent. So for some reason, my Gmail is a little bit slow getting it through. But you can test that and make sure that it's coming through as you need.
Right. So
All
one
right.
question that we had in setting up the logic here. So let's say we make a mistake. I mean, obviously, your end result isn't going to be in your favor. So
Mhm.
let's say if it's, a huge process and it's an important part or let's say an important workflow. Let's say someone makes a mistake. How do we mitigate that, or how do we kind of identify the problem, and how's that going to impact the entire process?
Yeah, great question. So when these run, there's a history of zaps. So I can go here really quick and we can see how these have run. And you
Mhm.
can dig into one of them and start to get all those error messages out to see where it has failed in the process. And then you can dig in further. So when I edit one of these, if I know that something happened wrong in the OpenAI, for example, now I can just go into edit the zap, which is the mode I'm in now, and I can go review the things that I saw and start to make some changes, to make some corrections. This is the real key reason why you would test. So one thing that
Mhm.
that I would personally do here is I pull in kind of the data that we saw and run through it. And you can actually replay a zap that has
Mhm.
executed before so that you can
Right.
monitor what happens through the workflow process. So great tools built in to help you
Mhm.
troubleshoot and dig through potential problems.
Got it. All right. I think we can proceed ahead. Or maybe a quick thumbs up if everyone is good to go, and Warren can proceed with the next tool
All
that
right,
he's got in mind. A quick thumbs up, everyone.
fantastic.
Yeah, great.
Okay,
Great.
so let me pull
Yeah.
up our next tool. So the next tool we're going to look at is this one is N8N. And let me make sure I get the right one pulled up here so we can walk you through this. So this one's kind of a fun one. Let me open up N8N. Okay, if you're not familiar with this one, it's a newer tool than Zapier. Like I said, this really is has become the darling of the AI community, and there's a few reasons I think for this. One is it's really easy to use. It's actually kind of an addictive interface if you like building workflows. Not all of us do, but if you do, it's a fun process. Number two, there's an open source version of this. So if you have a need within your organization to keep data and information behind your walls, this could be a solution to help that. And then finally, number three, I think there's a lot of buzz right now around this notion of an AI agent. So AI agents can really help through the workflow process. Now, we're not going to get into that today because our workflows are pretty simple. But an AI agent, think of it as a way it can start to figure out its own decisions and flow and reasoning and select from a variety of tools to help it accomplish its task. So great tool overall. We're going to sign in and we're going to walk through an uh, workflow process here. So what
Yeah.
I'm going to do here
Warren, just a quick thing
is,
again. If you
yeah,
can zoom in a bit. Uh,
yes, good call.
yeah.
Thank you. Okay,
Yeah.
let's try and make that as big as possible. How does that look, do we think?
Yeah, it's better now. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. And stop me and give me feedback if it needs to be bigger. I'm happy to adjust this as we go. Yeah, some of these screens are pretty tiny. Okay, N8N. Again, great tool. You can see I've got my workflows down here. We're going to start from scratch. So I'm just going to go up to create workflow and we're going to start moving down the process. Now, what you'll notice is it kind of feels similar to Zapier, right? We have this empty slate to work on and we have this ability to add a first step. So we're going to walk through this one step at a time. So again, probably feels a little similar in that I add a first step and I have the ability to go select a tool. In this case, we need to select that trigger, the first part of our workflow. So I'm going to use a form here just to make things easy. So N8N has a form built in so that I can choose to start the workflow using this built-in form. It's just going to make it easier for our demonstration purposes. Normally, you'd probably have a web form would fill this in or another way, but this is a really good way for us to see what this is going to look like. Okay, I'm going to fill in some information. So the title here is, we're going to call this the landing page optimizer. For those who are interested in the marketing aspects of this, is we're actually going to build a tool that's going to take a URL in, then it's going to go assess that URL, that web page, and it's going to come back with recommendations to help us think about how we could make it better. So kind of an interesting use case. I'm sure a lot of people would want to do this. So we've got a title, we've got a description. We're going to add a couple of form elements. So the first one is URL. We're just going to ask the user for the website that they want us to look at. And then we need to, again, ask for an email address so that we can send the results of our findings. So we're there, pretty simple. What you're going to see here is instead of test, we have this execute step. So we're going to execute this. There's a couple of reasons that you want to do this right now. One is it's going to test to make sure it works. Two, and more importantly, it's going to set up the data that we're going to need as we start to continue through the workflow build process. So let me hit execute. What we're going to see pop up is our landing page optimizer form. Pretty simple. I'm going to just key in a funny one here. Let's just do, I had some examples here. Let's try, let's try Simplilearn.com. Let's make sure we got HTTP in front of this. Okay, and then I'm going to return those results to myself. And I can't, no one can type when they're on screen. Okay, so I'm going to submit that and it's done. So it says my response has been recorded. So that step has worked. Great. And we can see here if we look at the output, what has collected. And now we know that information's ready as we start to go into the next steps as well. Okay, so the next thing we want to do is we want to go get that information. So we're going to fetch the page. And to do that, we're going to use a tool in NAN called HTTP request. Now, this can be used to fetch a web page, but it can also be used to interact with an API. You're going to see that in our other demo. But for us, we're just going to use it simply to go get a web page. Much like Zapier, what we're going to do is we're just going to drag fields in to where we need to apply them, and then it's going to build that workflow based on these variables that get filled in. So what happens here in HTTP request is we're going to do a get, which is we're going to go fetch a web page. We're going to fetch the URL that was provided by the user when they filled in the form. And that's really it. This is a pretty simple step. So we're going to execute that now. And you can see that it went out and grabbed all this information. That might be a little much for our OpenAI, but we're going to see. And now we have that data that's ready to use to move forward to the next step. So pretty simple so far, pretty easy to use. So the next thing we need to do is we need to assess it. So for this, we're going to use AI, much like we did in the last one. I'm going to use OpenAI again, just because it's simple. And for the action, this one they don't call it conversation in NAN, they call it message model. So I'm going to use message model. And now we have the information that we need to connect to. So as usual, we need to set our credentials. I've already got mine set up. So if you didn't have it set up, by the way, all you'd have to do is come in here, hit credential, put in your API key that OpenAI will supply to you, and then you'll be good to go. You'll have an account connected. Our resource is text. Our operation is message and model, kind of the standard things to use. We're just going to use kind of the default ChatGPT model. If you have a specific use case, you might need to select a different model, but that's a little outside the scope of what we're trying to get to here. And then finally, probably the most important piece is the prompt. So we need to send ChatGPT a prompt that's going to bring back some form of response. So let me go copy what I have here so I don't have to type all this. I'm going to paste this in. So I got this big long prompt, and basically what it says is, I want you to go look at this website. You're a conversion rate optimization expert. You need to think about all these things, and then I want you to come back with a response. Now, we have to have it look at all this information. So I'm going to pull this data in here, and that data is now going to be, I know that's a little bit of an eye chart here, is now going to be part of this prompt. And I can show you where you start to see that come through right down here. There you go. So here's the end of my prompt. Here's the content of my landing page. And then it's actually going to feed this right in. So that data now becomes part of the prompt that we're going to send to OpenAI. I'm going to test this. This might be a little bit of a large web page. Yeah, that was a big one. So hang on. I'm going to grab another one. This is a local lawn care company. We're going to go back here. I'm going to start the submission over again because that page was just too big. There's ways around that, but for speed purposes, we're going to make sure that this is an easier one to assess. And you can see how quick it is to go through there. So we've got it. We've got our HTTP request, and now OpenAI is running, and it's assessing the information that we've provided in the prompt with the new URL I provided. So this is going to take just a moment to run. So we'll give that just a second. Like I said, I found OpenAI was a little bit slow last night, so hopefully it's not going to take too long to run through this assessment. And let's actually look. Yeah, so we did get our new data in here based on what I had keyed in. So we should have current up-to-date information that is being fed into the model. And it is done. So let's have a look here and we can see the result. So we have our prompt, and then we have a message coming back from ChatGPT. First impression, headline, we care more, so you care less. So it's gone through a detailed assessment, and it's come back with a message that would be no different than if you went to ChatGPT and typed all this into the prompt there. It would come back with pretty much the same information. So far, so good. We're making good progress. We have a message. We're going to do the same thing again. We're going to email it. So this time I'm going to choose Gmail. Feels very similar to Zapier, right? We are going to send a Gmail message. And now we get a few things to fill in here. So very much like what you saw with Zapier, we need to fill this in. We can go back now to kind of our original steps in the workflow process and start to pull this in. So I need to pull in an address. I need to put in a subject. We're going to do landing page, oops, page analysis. HTML is email type is HTML because that's what I submitted. And then for the message, we're going to pull this from OpenAI, and this should be the message that came back. Here's our content. Let's throw that in there, and we can see that coming through. And that's really it. So we're going to execute that step. And as a test, it should tell me, yeah, it sent it. And it should dump that through Gmail and then over to my other inbox, which I'm watching for. And for some reason, my Gmail is not working well today. But we'll watch for that. So the process here, though, ultimately, what's going to happen is it's going to take all this information that's been formatted. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger so you can see what it looks like. All this information here is going to send it as part of a Gmail message and run it through finally to my email. And normally this works super well, but I think there's actually a problem with my Gmail account, not with the workflow, because this appears to be working properly. So at the end of the process, though, we've gone through, if I come back to our canvas, we've gone through a pretty simple build of a workflow that takes in a URL for a landing page, goes and pulls the content of it, runs it through an OpenAI model to do an assessment, and then sends a message off to the person that requested it to start with to see if they can get it back. So really interesting and quick way to automate a workflow process. Any questions there that we want to answer?
As someone had a question, I mean, I think he had issues with his internet, so we just wanted you to reiterate uh, how an HTTP request interacts the website. What's the context there? So, yeah.
Yeah, so the HTTP request generally is used for APIs. So if you need to incorporate a weather API because you want to go get the weather, for example. But
Mm,
because an HTTP or a web request is simply an HTTP request, by
mhm.
using a method of GET, we can go get basically any web pages out there as long as we feed in the URL. Now, what I will tell you is if you're trying to go scrape a web page that's behind a paywall or behind authentication, or has a robot.txt file that forbids it, you're not going to be able to go get it. There are other tools that would help you do that. I'm just
Yeah.
using a really basic one to show how that would work.
Got it, got it. So there's another question. I mean, not related exactly to the tool here, but how does it work if a certain application or a trigger input is not supported? How can they write custom ones? Is that
Yes.
also possible?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that's a
Okay.
fantastic question. Yeah. So one of the triggers that you can add here is called a webhook. And this is something that you can call from your own application. So you see we've got a webhook URL here. So if I call this webhook address from a mobile app or from an internal app within my organization, that will be the trigger to start
Mm,
this process off. And you can include information in that so that when that trigger happens, I can take the
mm.
information that was part of that trigger and move it forward in the workflow. This would likely be a more common event than what I've shown here with an N8N form submission. The N8N form submission is typically more for a testing process.
Got it. Got it. All right. All right. And another question related to, oh yeah. So another interesting question is there a way we can schedule an automation, for example, run the process at 1 a.m. on,
Yes.
specific
Yeah.
dates,
Fantastic
Monday. Yeah.
question.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
probably should address that right up front. Yes,
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
we can schedule that. So we've got a schedule trigger tool. And this is a pretty common process to be able to schedule something. So we can come in here and we can define a trigger interval, days,
Hmm.
hours, minutes, seconds, depending on what your need is, how many intervals between the triggers and when you want to start. So actually a very good scheduling process exists within the tool to be able to do that.
Right. Amazing.
So
And
I'm gonna
again,
keep.
not related to the tools that you showed, but a lot of
Mhm.
questions came on what can data scientists or data analysts do or if you have tools in mind to share with these learners that they can explore for free, some tools that can automate, some of the workflows that they have. Do you have any such tools in mind as well?
Specific to data analysis, if I
Yeah,
understood the
yeah.
question.
Data analysis,
Yeah.
data science. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, so it's really gonna. There's a lot of things that feed into the tool for data analysis
Mm,
workflow.
mm,
Number one, and we give this guidance in the course as well, is look for the tools that your organization supports today, and see if they have an integration. And the reason that we suggest this is if you talk to your data teams within your organization, a lot of times they have very strict rules about what you can and can't use inside the
mm,
organization. Now, the
mm,
chances are pretty good that the data tool you're using has the ability to run an integration back into a tool like Zapier. Zapier's got a ton of support, or back into a tool like N8N. So I would say rather than suggest a specific data tool to go out and attempt to use, see what your organization has or what tools you're comfortable with and look for their AI integrations and how they might plug back into N8N. I think you'll have a little bit more success that way.
right. Someone on the chat just shared the most usable tool is the Collab agent for data analysis. Okay, thanks for sharing that.
Yeah.
Maybe, yeah, I think if you have anything else to share, maybe you can go ahead. Can
Yeah, we have we're gonna run through one more quick demo here. So let me leave
yeah,
this
of course.
site.
Yeah,
So
of
I
course.
saw someone was looking for the URL. This is it right here,
Hi,
nan.io.
N8N.io. Yeah, let me just share that on the
Okay,
chat right away.
perfect.
Yeah,
Okay, so this one is going to, and I'm going to make sure that I can show you. I want to be able to show you an email of this when it's done in case my email is not working. So I've got one ready to go. Okay, so this one was a little bit more unique because the notion of a landing page optimizer or a customer support call, those are pretty typical type of workflows. I wanted to stretch a little bit outside the box here, because I think one of the important things as we're thinking about workflows is you may not know something could be automated, but just again, think about if it's something that you do over and over again, there's probably a way to automate this. And the reason this one came back to me is I asked someone to give me an estimate to mow my lawn. Um, and I got a few different people. They came back to me really quick, and I realized, well, this is probably something they do every day, and they probably do it many times a day. So, would it be possible to do that automatically through a workflow? So, we're going to try it out. So, this is how we're going to approach this one. So, we're going to do another form, and again, this is just to make things really easy. This would probably be a website. And for this form, we are going to say, we're going to call this the lawn estimator. And I am going to paste in a form description so I don't bore you with all my typing. Let me actually stretch this out a little bit more for you. We're going to add a couple of form elements. So the first one is we need a street address, because if we need to estimate your lawn, I need to know where it is. And then I also need to, oh, I added one by accident. Also need to send it back to you. So we're going to, again, capture an email address, and we're going to execute this step. Okay, so here's my form again. This should look familiar by now. I'm just going to key in. This is not my address, by the way, so I'm not giving anything away. And I'll key my email address in, even though I think it may not quite get to this address for some reason, but I do have a spare ready to go that we can show you. Okay, so we're going to submit that. So again, you want to test it. You want to test it with data that's somewhat real, that at least you can understand through the process is working the way that you want it to work. So sure enough, we got it. Let me pull this open a little bit more. Captured my street address, captured my email address, and I'm ready to go. So I've got the first step done. We've got our form ready to go. So I'm going to move this up a little. Okay, so the next step is, and this step is a little strange. What I'm going to actually do is I'm going to reach out to a county property website to pull back information about the street address. So I want to know, you could do this in N8N, but that piece of the workflow would be a little bit complicated. So I'm calling a custom API to do this. So you're not going to see this API normally, but I thought it would be a really good way to show how this is going to work for an API integration. So you've seen HTTP request before. This is how we got a web page. So this time I'm actually going to call a real API, and I'm going to use a post. So if you web developers are familiar with this, or workflow developers, and I'm going to call this URL right here. And I'm going to skip past that so that we don't share that URL too much. And then for this, we need to send some information. So in an API request, we want to send a body. That body is going to be a JSON content type. If you're familiar with APIs, this will seem familiar to you. We're going to give that body parameter a name of address. And for the value, like before, we're going to just pull in the value that we pulled from the form. So pretty straightforward view. And you can see it's actually replicated it down here. So I'm going to execute this step. This is going to take a minute because this is going to run out to this API server, which is doing a few things behind the scenes. So it's going to look up a county property website for this address. It's going to pull back things like the lot size and the legal description. Then it's going to download a couple of images from that lot that are going to be important as we start thinking about it. So here's the information we got. We can see the lot size is 100 by 150 roughly. And we've got a property photo URL and a map screenshot URL. And the reason I wanted to do this was to show you that it doesn't just have to be text analysis when we bring the AI in. There's other things that you can do that might be interesting to your workflow. So for us, we're actually going to we're going to look at an image to assess. So let's go back to our AI. Let's go open AI now. And this time, instead of message model, we're going to choose analyze an image. I think this is a really powerful way to show the potential of incorporating AI into your workflows. So I'm going to choose a model. Again, I'm just going to choose 4.0, the latest. It's pretty good. So the text in this is basically your prompt, right? We're going to provide it with an image, and I need to put a prompt in here that's going to say, how do you want to determine what's in this image? So I'm going to replace it with this prompt. Okay, so, and I'll read this out in a moment, but I need to pull one piece in. So I'm going to pull the lot size in as part of the prompt because I want to use that when I'm telling the model what to do. So I'm going to put that back here. So let me walk through this a little bit. So the lot is highlighted with the yellow border. You'll see why that makes sense in a moment. The picture we're looking at is actually an overhead shot, and the border of the actual lot is highlighted in yellow. We're going to tell it to look at it and bring back some key information based on things like driveways and houses. So what we're trying to do is look at a picture and estimate how much grass there is so we can estimate what it's going to take to mow it. And that's pretty much it. So pretty simple step. We're going to run that. This is going to end a bad request. URL field. Oh, I need to fill in the URL field. There we go. So I forgot to fill in the URL for my image, which is pretty important. So I need to pull that back in here. And we're going to run that again. That request again, failed to download. Oh, I know I got that one. Oh, sorry. Silly me. I forgot a step. So the image URL I get is only a part of the URL. I actually need to prepend the IP address that comes before that. So I'm going to put that in, and now we should get back our information. It's going to take a minute because we're calling OpenAI. It is image analysis, so it can take a moment. And sure enough, it comes back. So what it's actually done, and again, think about the power of this, is it's looked at an image that you're going to see shortly. It's an overhead shot. It's going to figure out where the house is and how big it is. It's going to figure out how much of the driveway is on the property. And then it's going to estimate how much grass there is. So now I can use that to try and figure out how much this is going to cost. So we've got that step done. Now, I don't have a price in here and I don't have a message back to our users. So we need to add that. So I'm going to run through this. We're going to go through OpenAI again. This time we are going to do message a model. We're going to go through basically a very similar process here. So resources text, message a model is the same. Well, again, we'll use the same ChatGPT model. That's a pretty straightforward one. And then I'm going to copy in a prompt. So let's make this a little bit bigger. Okay, so here's my prompt. So my prompt is going to be the message below is analysis of a yard. We need to calculate a monthly cost. Here's how to calculate it. And make sure to include the image in the reference. So, and I've pre-populated this. So, but basically what I've done automatically is I've dragged these over. So it's got the screenshot, it's got the content. So it should have everything I need now to actually send a call to OpenAI with all the information that I've provided and come back with a message that I can now send off to my user. There it is. So we've got a message in here that's got all the information that we need. Almost done. So pretty simple so far, I think. So the last thing we need to do is like before is we just need to send this in an email. So I'm going to grab Gmail. Afraid this isn't going to work, but I do have a sample. So that's good. So message send, we're going to go to, again, we're going to pull in the form address that we've got from before. We're going to put in our own subject. And for our message, now we need to go back to our OpenAI, the one we just grabbed, and pull in our content. And there it is. And that should be that. Let's execute that step. And it said it sent it out. I'm betting it didn't send it out. Oh, wait. Oh, well, I got my landing page analysis. It was a little slow, but you can see what that one looks like. So it's got a nice layout. It's got all my assessment information. Oh, and my lawn estimate showed up as well. Okay, so here's what we got. You can see right off the bat, we've included an image. This is an overhead shot of the property. So it can measure it out. And then OpenAI actually assessed the image, figured out how big it was, figured out how much is grass because of buildings and other things, and then came back with an estimate of $293 a month. So now a lot of this is made up, but it shows you the ability for an automation process that's using AI to get into some really interesting and different use cases. So I think it was a fun exercise to go through, and I'll open it up for
Yeah,
questions.
yeah, absolutely. I think really fun learning these tools as well. The learners do have a lot of questions, very interesting ones actually. And I'm going to start with the one that talks about data security. So Sunny has this question about, and it's not for a paid AI tool or anything. He's talking about open
Mhm.
source tools. So
Yeah.
when AI automatically learns from the inputs that we give, and so your data is stored in its memory. In that case, how do you ensure data security? Is that
Yeah.
concerning? How should one handle that?
Yeah, honestly, that's probably the top question we get in
Hmm.
the course
Hmm. Yeah.
is around data security and submitting to models. There's a couple of different ways to think about this. So you've got your cloud tools like OpenAI or Gemini or Claude, where you're submitting information to, and then you mentioned open source. So you might have an open source model sitting within your walls. Now, if it's open source and it's within your walls, like you're running an LLM on your own server, then there are no issues at all with data security. That's not being transmitted anywhere. That stays completely within your walls. If you are a health services organization or a financial organization, that might be something that's important to you, and your technical team is going to want to stand up in that particular
Hmm.
process. Now, on the cloud side, it depends on your provider. And what I encourage people to do is when you sign up for a service, check their terms and conditions because they're
Hmm.
all a little bit different and they tell you what they're going to do with your data. So, for example, if you use the enterprise version of ChatGPT, nothing that you type into the prompt gets stored and therefore it doesn't get trained on. If you
Absolutely.
use the public version of Google Gemini, for example, that information does get stored and they do use it for future training. So
Hmm.
always checks the terms and conditions is kind of the guide I give.
Right. 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 Got it. Okay. I hope that answers your question, Sunny. A couple of another questions about, okay, what is your backup or recovery plan in case the automation system fails? And this is a risk that someone carries if the process is critical, involves again client data or some process that's critical for the business to run. So How does
Yeah.
one handle that?
Yeah, fantastic question.
Yeah.
So when you're building your workflows, we've shown you some pretty simple examples of workflows here. What you can and should do is inject monitoring components. So those will make sure that as you're stepping through the process, if something doesn't align that the way it's supposed to, it can send you a message. So for example, if my analyze image failed because maybe I ran out of OpenAI credits, you could add another flow here that would message you on Slack, for example,
Mm,
or log it somewhere. So there are ways to incorporate notifications and logging mechanisms through the workflow process that make sure that the right people are being notified at the right time.
got it. All right, all right. So I think some people are asking this question about how they can learn these tools, or also, about the course as well. So,
Yeah.
if you can just maybe highlight what someone can do, how someone can start um, learning automation and just getting well versed with the tools. How does one start out?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a couple of ways. So if you're really interested in the tool specifically, I'll close this down. I'll come back to this page.
Sure.
All of these tools have great resources. They will show you how to use this specific tool for those
Mm,
use cases.
mm,
However, what I will also tell you, and I tell this to our classes as well, is ask your favorite AI tool. Go ask ChatGPT, tell it what kind of workflow automation problem you're trying to solve and that you want to
yeah.
use NAN and to give you some guidance. And you're going to get
Mm,
back some responses that are really good and walk you through the steps. It's a
amazing.
fantastic way to learn.
Amazing. So all these questions about whether ERP systems can be integrated, or someone had a question about how they can analyze responses on a questionnaire. Someone
Mhm.
had a question about industrial automation. So I think all of these questions can be answered by ChatGPT. I think
Yes.
that's probably a way to understand that. Great. And also, how does one get, well versed with automating or setting up that automation? How does one handle errors in the workflow? How can I pass data between nodes? That's one question that just came up.
Yeah. So for getting used to the tools, honestly, it's probably like any other tool. Is just use it and use it as much as you can. And this
Mm,
applies the same to ChatGPT if you're trying to get versed in AI. The more time you spend building these components out, even if you're just testing something or trying out a fun idea, the more you get used to the process of how everything comes together. So just spend some time on it, try to automate a workflow, even if it's a simulated one. And you're going to find you get up to speed really quickly, and especially in a tool like this.
absolutely. Great, great. So I think with that, your demo is done. Warren, maybe
Yes,
can I take the screen share
absolutely.
back? Yeah, yeah. All right. So for people asking questions about how can we get how do we start, or can I get information on the Simplilearn course? About the recordings, I already answered that, if you just stay for some more time, you might receive the recording. I'll share that in a while. But let me just help you understand how we help you leverage workflow automation, how we get you to leverage automation. So we've got this course which is called Generative AI for Business Transformation, which we've launched in partnership with Purdue University Online. Right. You get a certificate that's jointly offered by Purdue University Online and Simplilearn. And of course, you get access to Purdue's Alumni Association membership after you complete the course. You get immense exposure, not just in terms of knowing what these tools are. You get to practice a lot of use cases, which we'll highlight in some time. So maybe if you can also highlight the curriculum, Warren, how the curriculum is set up and how it covers all the use cases. Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm a little biased. I love this course. I think it's a great way for business people, especially, to understand how to apply AI to what they do. So we start with some foundational elements. So
Mm,
literacy and the tech stack is really let's get everyone at the same level on what AI is, how it applies to your business, how to think about all the things that you need to stand up AI in your organizations. Then we get specifically into workflow automation. So we're going to extend a lot of things that we talked about today and get deeper into Zapier and really understand that. We have a whole section on ethics and economics, very big topics.
Yes.
We get specifically into a section on Copilot for business. And then there's a master class. One thing I should talk about is there's a lot of use case content in here. So we'll dive into sales and marketing use cases and product research use cases. So things that are going to be real and relevant to what you're doing every day.
Absolutely, absolutely. So things that are relevant, things that you will use, things that will help you in the long run as well. So which is why you will learn all of this as a part of this program, and you get access to all of these live sessions through a dedicated learning environment where you're also accessing the class recordings in case you miss one. Let's say you have a question, you have a dedicated cohort manager to help you with these queries. So that's what we have. And of course, towards the end of your program, what we also offer is career support in the form of helping you refine your resume, refine your profile, helping you with mock interviews so that you're closer to the job that you want. So these are some benefits that you get out of the course. And I'm also going to talk about the admission steps now very quickly, and then we'll jump into the pending questions that we've had. So it's a very simple three-step process. What I'm going to do is to launch a poll, and you've just got to say yes if you're interested in enrolling in the program. And we've got learning advisors from India and the US. So let's say you live in the US, you join a separate breakout room that I'm about to launch, and you ask them your questions about the enrollment. Let's say you live in India, there's going to be a room that says Learning Advisor IN. You're going to be joining that and get your queries answered. Yeah, so it's just that. And then let's say you're really interested to join the upcoming cohort, you will be guided on how your payment steps are going to be as well. Okay, so this is how we're going to go about the enrollment for this course. And give me some time, I'm going to launch this poll. But before that, I would like you to look at the certificate and also the course fee. So this is the certificate that I talked about. It's going to be jointly offered along with Purdue and Simplilearn, just what it looks like, right? And these are your fee details. For learners in India, fee is 1,20,000 rupees, and for learners in the US, close to 2,500 rupees. You also have the option of paying via installments. Say you want to opt for this, facility. You can do that for 5,300 rupees a month nearly, and if you're in the US, then you pay close to $250 a month, right? So now I'm just going to launch this poll because I mentioned the course fee. Let's say this interests you, something that you would want to explore, all the tools that you saw today and also the PDF that I gave you kind of makes you feel curious about learning more, then you should definitely consider being a part of our next cohort, which starts. The induction classes actually started a while back. These are not the latest dates. I'm really sorry. Let me share the course page with you guys so that you can check. Yeah. So you can check your latest cohort start dates here. These are outdated, cohort start dates. Anyway, let me just launch that poll and also very quickly launch the breakout rooms. So once you are a part of the breakout room, you get to interact with your learning advisor with microphone on. Okay, so let me just do that right now. Yeah, and for people who want to kind of explore the program, I've shared the link to the course page there. Just give me a minute. Yeah. Yes. So just going to send a message out room. You should be able to see that here. Yeah. Okay, the course is about 3 months long, as far as I know. Yeah, 3 months, yes, from what you can see on the slide. And let me just also assign US Learning Advisor. Yeah, yes. Okay. So you will find your learning advisors there in the breakout room. Please make sure you ask your questions. And if you've got questions for Warren, then you can just stay back here and put your questions on the Q&A box. Does this course focus on Copilot as the main AI? Warren, if you can answer that, do we only focus on
Yeah.
Copilot? Yeah.
I can answer that.
Okay.
No, we
Yeah.
don't. As a matter of fact, we hit a wide variety of tools. So Copilot, certainly one of them. One of the reasons we have a little bit of extra focus on Copilot is it's available in a lot of enterprises. So a lot of folks have them on their desktops or laptops already. But we hit ChatGPT, Copilot, and we hit a variety of other specialized AI tools as well.
Right. Got it. Okay. I don't know what this learner's name is, but I hope the question was answered. Richard and anyone else asking this question about, okay, what about people outside India and US? Okay, we couldn't get a learning advisor, so maybe what you could do is just answer yes on the poll and join one of these rooms and maybe submit your details with them. They could pass that on. Or if you can also email me, I'm just giving you my email ID, webinars@simplilearn.net, and I can pass on your interest in the course to a learning advisor. Okay. We never have this situation. We always have learners either from India or the US, which is why we got learning advisors from there. But anyway, okay. Right. Let me quickly check the Q&A box for any other questions. Okay, someone has a question. Okay, I am a senior citizen with no tech experience. Will I still be able to take the course and come out efficient in building these workflows? This person is interested in insurance sales to businesses. What do
I
you
would say
think,
yes.
Warren?
Yeah. There are technical elements to the course for sure, but it's not meant to be directed at a technical audience. As a matter of fact,
Yeah,
it really is focusing on business people and how to solve business challenges with AI. Now, we do cover some technical aspects, but really, like I said earlier, it's about foundational and helping you set up enough information to have the conversations. But you do not need to be technical to jump into this course.
yeah, absolutely. Because these are workflows. Uh, I mean, that could be a part of what you already do in your job, and you
Mhm.
want to learn automation and use an AI tool, right? So
Yeah.
you don't have to have technical background there. Yes. Let me
Right.
see. There's another question that says, okay, can I use automation check credit card statement? Okay, let me just look at questions that are relevant to what we discussed. Yeah, another very basic question that learner has, Sunny again. I have a very basic question. What is the difference between AI and automation at core level?
Oh, yeah, great question.
Yeah,
Automation is the process we saw. So think about back to the slide where we have a trigger, we have some rules, and then we run this workflow. And just core automation basically says that trigger occurs, and then there's some decision points that have been predefined with actions to follow when those decisions hit a path that we've already defined. So automation itself is just triggers and actions, essentially. AI is the use of an LLM or other tools to help either process data, to help direct the decision flow based on things that would have been hard to do otherwise. I'll use a quick example. When you have a customer support ticket come in, um, the system without AI probably doesn't know what type of agent to send it to. But if you use AI to look at the message, it can understand the intent and it can decide to send it to a particular agent or take an action.
Right. Got it. Uh, we've got a special request on doing a dedicated workshop on data science and AI tools, content creation tools. Okay, I think you'll get that in the course. You're going to be having dedicated
Yes.
classes, sessions on each of these workflows that we just mentioned some time back. So I think Nav Girvani, that's your name. You, I mean, you could consider enrolling into the program here. I'm looking to create an insights platform using an AI/ML wrapper as a solopreneur using AI assistant. Is this an appropriate course or is there a different Simplilearn class? So this person is looking to create an insights
Mhm.
platform using AI with an ML wrapper. He's a solopreneur using AI assistant. Wants to
Yeah.
understand if this course is suitable.
Yeah, I'm reading that. That's a good question. I think so. There's a full data analytics section of this course that will certainly touch on that, and I think you'd be able to do some of it. It depends how deep you want to get. Like if you're looking to stand up a whole platform, you might need to get into something that's a little bit more LLM development focused. But certainly we touch on data and analytics and get into some of that.
Got it. Okay. Again, Ashine, if that's your name, I hope I pronounced your name correctly. I hope that answers your question. And people still interested in the course, you could select a yes and talk to our learning advisors in the breakout rooms. If you live in the India, if you live in India or the US. But let's say you live anywhere else in the world, just click a yes on the poll, and someone will reach out to you on phone next week, Monday. Yeah. All right. If you guys have any more questions for Warren, please put them on the Q&A box. And that would be great because I'm not looking at the chat box right now. We've closed down the chat box. Mm, I think that's pretty much it. All the others are for me to say. Okay, yeah, there's one more question that David has. Can these tools be used to help people who work on Salesforce Service Cloud as customer service rep in a call center? Short answer, yes, but Warren, I will let you elaborate that.
Yeah, absolutely. Salesforce has plugins, certainly for Zapier, pretty common plugin. You can plug it into N8N as well. And honestly, I would look at Salesforce's tools. They're investing heavily into AI, and they may have something you need right out of the box. But yeah, definitely doable for Salesforce.
Absolutely. That's great. Okay. Great session, Warren. Thanks for your time today. It
Thank
was
you.
amazing hosting you. Do you have any closing thoughts before you drop off?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you everyone for participating. Love the engagement, love the questions. I think they're great. I'll reiterate something I said earlier. Go try it. Spend some time in here like any other tool. Just
Hmm.
test it out and have some fun.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's the best way to start. The best way to start is to explore these tools. And I'm sure all of these tools have, some functionalities that are available for free. So maybe learners start using that and then later of course consider, okay, a lot of claps. Okay, great, that's great, which is amazing without me asking you guys to do that. Great, learners really enjoyed listening to you, Warren. Also on behalf of the audience on LinkedIn and YouTube, it was great looking at the demo as well. Thanks again for your time. We'll see you again then.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Bye. Yes, so the learners can stay back maybe, because we've still got some more learners who are interested in talking to the learning advisors. So another couple of minutes before I wrap it up and then proceed with the next segment of the session. Okay, so if you're still interested and you feel that this course is kind of something that you would want to take up, definitely consider that. And let's say you want to start out small, uh, like Warren suggested, you could use ChatGPT to understand which workflows you can automate, and then explore tools and later use them at your work. That's probably a way to start. Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay. Amazing. So I'm just going to end this poll right here. Uh, and about 50, 60 of you said you're interested in the course, which is great. Okay. Yes, I'm going to get to that. This is the certificate. Now, on the chat box, I actually have shared the link to the recording of this session. So make sure you save that and bookmark that. You will receive it as an email as well. But I sent it now because all of you were really keen to have the recording right away. Okay. Now, about the certificate. So, what do you do to get the certificate? I'm just going to launch another poll, okay, on Zoom. Please make sure you only submit your name on the poll. I'm just switching off the chat box right now, so you can't message me on the chat. So just make sure you put in your responses on the poll here. Submit only your full name on the poll, and you will receive a certificate on Monday. Okay. So remember that we're not working over the weekend. You will receive the certificate Monday, end of day, and that happens when you submit your name here. Yeah. So I've given you the recording on the chat, and I also gave you a list of tools that you can explore for automating your workflows. Yes. So just make sure you use both of these resources to your advantage. And let's say you miss the session, you want to revisit the session, you can absolutely do that. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. And the breakout rooms are still open, by the way, in case someone wants to reach out to the learning advisor, you can do that and explore your enrollment options. You can still do that there. Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to keep the poll live here on Zoom, and you guys can enter your names for getting your certificate. Great. So I don't think we've got learners from India really wanting to explore the course. Maybe Rajni, I think, is done having conversations, which is great. So I hope that you found these conversations useful, amazing. People in the US, you could still join the breakout room there, have a conversation with Faisal or Vijesh, and understand your enrollment options. Yes. And remember, we'll close down the session in the next 5 to 10 minutes. So make sure you finish entering your name in the certificate poll. Yeah. Okay, yeah. If you've actually done that, maybe a thumbs up would help. A reaction would help. If you've entered your name, you don't have to do anything else. Um, just have to enter your name and be done with it. Thank you to the audience on LinkedIn and YouTube as well for joining in and listening in for, for so long, ensuring that you have a good start to the weekend. You learned something new today. You also learned these tools. So make sure you go back and explore these tools like Warren suggested. Yes. And in case you do have questions for us, do reach out to us on askus@simplylearn.net. Or if you have specific questions about upcoming webinars, make sure you reach out on webinars@simplylearn.net. Okay, and when you exit the session, let's say you don't have anything else, you don't want to talk to learning advisors yet, when you exit the session, you will be prompted to enter a survey. So just make sure you enter whatever you felt about the session and what you would like us to cover next. Okay, yeah, that'll also help us improve, help us understand what we can do next. Great, great. I'm just now going to open up the chat box again in case you want, have specific requirements for our next session. Anything that you want to share, you can do that on the chat right now. Yeah, it was actually great hosting you guys. How do you map your email ID? Gaurav, we already have your email ID, so you don't have to worry about that. Um, yes, so I am going to actually share the recording once again. Let me do that on the chat. Please make sure. Okay, here you go. That's the recording. Okay, and this link here that I'm going to share on the chat again contains the deck, the webinar deck that we use today, and the list of tools that can automate various processes. Yes, and we will be emailing the certificate. We have your email IDs. All we needed is your full name to be entered on the certificate. We got that right now through the poll. So we'll be emailing the certificate Monday, end of day. Okay? Yeah. Everything else is already available with you. All you need to do is to just enter your name and then be done. Don't have to enter it again. You won't be having the option to enter it again. Yes. So please wait till Monday, same time maybe. You will be receiving your emails. And how do you receive information on these kind of webinars? You can actually keep Simplilearn webinars. That's the username. You can actually mark us as important, and then you will receive alerts on any upcoming webinars there. Okay. Thank you, Rajula. It was great hosting you as well. Hope that found the session useful. Aditya, yes, the session is nearly done. I'm just waiting for learners to be done with their entries, and we're actually done with the session as well. Okay. Great. Thank you, Jitendra. Thank you, Aditya. It was actually great hosting this session. So in case, again, let's say you're not a learner and you would like to explore this course, you should definitely consider doing that. If not now, maybe just look at what the course contains, how this course may be useful. Check out, talk to a learning advisor, and then see if you want to be a part of the session. Thank you, Gaurav. Thank you, Arpita. Thank you, Deepali. Thank you. So I'm just going to end the poll as well. I think all of you have entered your details pretty much. And yeah, I'll see you again in another session very, very soon. And actually, speaking of the next session, we actually have another session coming up on Monday, which is slightly different from what we usually do. So we just partnered with IIT Bombay for a webinar related to an IC design course that we launched very recently. So in case you are interested in pursuing semiconductor, pursuing your career in the semiconductor industry, or just curious to understand what this course is all about, what an IC design engineer should be doing, should be learning, all of that. Let's say you're really interested to understand this, then I think you can register for this webinar. So I'm just going to share this link right here on the chat. Okay. And you guys, similar to what you did for this webinar, you'll just be prompted with your email ID and also your phone number. Just make sure you do that. Okay. And yes. I've just shared the link and I'm switching off the chat again so that the link does not get missed. Make sure. Thank you, Mahalakshmi. Can register for that as well. Yeah, so this session is going to be slightly different. It's not going to be the same format that we follow right now. We're going to have professors from IITB actually helping to understand how the course is structured, how the curriculum is designed, and all of that. So if you're interested, semiconductors seem interesting to you, IC design seems interesting to you, should consider registering for this webinar. Yeah, great. Thank you again. Have a great day. Have a